He belongs to the Syndicate, a deadly love triangle, wrapped in crime and corruption. A book written by Cyprian Josson. Dedication to Dr. Iheme Marianne Ugochi, the silent rhythm behind my sentences, the whisper that stirred my soul awake. You are the dawn that returned after a long night, rekindling the fire in a storyteller who had forgotten his own voice. It was your light that touched the dust of my silence, your faith that gave shape to these words, now clothed in ink. This story lives because you believed, and so every page carries a breath of you. Every chapter hums with your name. Thank you for being the muse who found me when I had lost myself. Sample of the book, Chapter 1, The Road to Wari. Miriam glowed like caramel at sunset, warm, soft, and full of love. Her long, plaited braids slipped down her back like whispers of midnight, softly framing her sweet, heart-shaped face and the gentle curve of her smile. Her bright, expressive eyes sparkled with a mix of excitement and apprehension as the Peugeot's tires screeched on a particularly deep pothole. Her brothers, Chinedu and Ike, let out a synchronized groan, but Miriam felt a thrill run through her. She was finally leaving Emakuku, her quiet hometown in Imo State, behind. At 17, Miriam was a curious blend of traditional values and modern aspirations. She was fiercely independent, with a sharp mind and a quick wit. Her love for books and poetry was only rivaled by her desire for adventure and exploration. As she gazed out of the window, the unfamiliar landscape unfolding before her, like a canvas waiting to be painted, Miriam felt a sense of freedom she had never known before. The dusty road to Wari stretched out before them like an uncertain promise. Chinedu and Ike, her older brothers, sat on either side of her, their faces set in a mixture of concern and amusement. They were taking her to Wari to meet Okaboy, a family friend who had offered to host them for a week. Miriam had heard stories about Okaboy's kindness and generosity, but she was also aware of the underlying motive behind their visit. Her brothers wanted to fix her up with Okaboy, to secure her future with a well-established man. But Miriam had other plans. She was determined to forge her own path, to make her own decisions, and to follow her own dreams. As the car pulled up in front of Okaboy's house, Miriam felt a flutter in her chest. The house was a tranquil oasis in the midst of the bustling city, with a warm and inviting atmosphere that seemed to envelop her in a sense of comfort. She was drawn to the worn books on the shelf, the soft jazz drifting from the radio, and the faint scent of ink and roasted groundnuts. This was a place where she could be herself, where she could explore her thoughts and feelings without fear of judgment. Okaboy's calm and composed demeanour put Miriam at ease, but she couldn't shake off the feeling that there was more to him than met the eye. As they talked, she found herself drawn to his words, his laughter, and his eyes, which seemed to see right through her. But little did she know, Okaboy was hiding secrets of his own, secrets that would change the course of their lives forever. "Welcome to Wari," Okaboy said, his deep, measured voice commanding attention. Miriam felt an emotional connection as she turned to face him. His eyes, warm and kind, seemed to see right through her, and yet she felt no discomfort. Instead, she felt a sense of calm, as if she'd finally found a place where she could be herself. His calm protected her. She was at peace. Chinedu, Miriam's older brother, stood tall, his broad shoulders and charming smile making him a natural Epicurean. He was the life of the party, always ready with a joke or a witty remark to lighten the mood. But beneath his affable exterior, Chinedu was fiercely protective of his sister. He'd always been the one to look out for her, to ensure she was safe and happy. And now, as they stood in Okaboy's living room, Chinedu felt a sense of relief wash over him. This was a good man, A man who could provide for Miriam, take care of her. Ike, on the other hand, was more reserved. His serious demeanor and introspective nature made him seem older than his years. He was the voice of reason in the family, always thinking things through, considering the consequences. Ike had always been the one to worry about Miriam's future, to fret about her safety and well-being. And now, as he looked at Okaboy's calm, composed face, Ike felt a sense of hope. Maybe, just maybe, this was the man who could give Miriam the life she deserved. Both brothers had brought Miriam to Warri with a purpose in mind. They wanted to introduce her to Okaboy, a well-established man who could provide for her, protect her. They'd grown up in a world where marriage was a means of securing one's future, and they wanted the best for their sister. They'd seen the way Okaboy lived, the way he carried himself with quiet confidence, and they knew he'd be perfect for Miriam. As Miriam chatted with Okaboy, Chinedu and Ike exchanged a knowing glance. They'd done the right thing, bringing her here. They'd find a way to fix her up with Okaboy, and she'd be set for life. Little did they know, Miriam had other plans. She'd always been drawn to the unknown, the unexplored, and Warri, with its vibrant culture and rich history, was just the place to start her journey. As the evening wore on, Miriam found herself lost in conversation with Okaboy. They talked about books, music, and life, their words flowing easily, like old friends. Chinedu and Ike exchanged knowing smiles as they watched the scene unfold before them. They had seen this sort of thing before, the spark of possibility, the electricity in the air. But this time felt different. Miriam stood slightly apart from them, her heart pounding in her chest. Her eyes sparkled with a mixture of excitement and wonder, as if she had just stepped into a moment she had always hoped for, but never thought would come. She felt fully alive, like the world had suddenly shifted to make space for her in it. For the first time in a long while, she felt seen. And the reason for that feeling stood just a few feet away. Okaboy. There was something about him that drew her in, something magnetic and mysterious. As she watched him from across the room, she couldn't help but wonder, could this be the beginning of something special? Was this the connection she had secretly yearned for? Okaboy, for his part, wore a calm and composed expression, his face unreadable, like a mask crafted from years of practice. To Miriam he appeared confident, grounded, and quietly charming. But behind that serene exterior was a truth that neither she nor her brothers could possibly guess. Okaboy had a secret, a hidden side of himself that told a very different story. While he seemed like a man with his life in order, with dreams and direction, the truth was darker. His calm demeanor concealed a private habit, one that consumed a significant portion of his life and money. Every month, like clockwork, he set aside a specific budget not for rent or savings, but to indulge in a lifestyle kept far from the light of day. In the town of Warri, there was a brothel infamous for its size and discretion, home to 28 women. Okaboy had become a regular there, returning each month to satisfy his chronic sexual desires. One after another, he made his rounds through the brothel, as though completing a twisted ritual. He told himself it was control, that he was in charge of his choices. But the truth was, he was trapped in a pattern he couldn't, or wouldn't, break, until one day, one of the prostitutes in the brothel refused him. "You no go see my Toto," the woman yelled at him. "I go double the money for you," Okaboy said. "Carry your money go, useless man." To his friends he was just Okaboy, smooth-talking, easy-going, always flashing that enigmatic smile. To Miriam, he was a symbol of hope and new beginnings. But to himself, he was someone divided, living two lives, each pulling him in opposite directions. As the evening unfolded and the conversation grew louder around them, Miriam took a tentative step closer to Okaboy, drawn by curiosity and the faint tug of longing. She had no idea what lay behind the mask he wore. She only saw the man who made her feel like she belonged to him. But masks can only hide the truth for so long, and in time, every secret demands to be known. Miriam's fingers moved with deliberate slowness as she arranged her clothes, her mind attracted by the enigmatic figure she had met earlier. The memory of Ochre Boy lingered, barefoot, composed, and exuding a quiet confidence that seemed almost otherworldly. She couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to him than met the eye, that beneath his reserved exterior lay a depth she longed to explore. As she stepped into the corridor, she collided with his presence once more. He leaned against the living room doorframe, lost in the pages of a weathered poetry book. The way his eyes danced over the lines, slow and thoughtful, stirred a flutter in her heart. Their gazes locked, and for a moment, time stood still. "You read poetry?" Miriam asked, her voice barely above a whisper, her curiosity piqued. OK Boy's eyes sparkled with amusement. "I try. Some poems feel like dreams you remember when you're half awake, fragmented yet hauntingly real." Miriam's smile was instinctive. "That sounds profound. What's this one about?" "Love," he replied, his voice low and measured. "But not the kind you see in movies. It's about the kind that finds you quietly, like rain in Harmattan, gentle, yet relentless." As he spoke, Miriam felt herself getting lost in his words, the rhythm of his voice weaving a spell around her. She laughed softly, unsure what moved her more, the poem or the way he spoke. "Can I hear a line?" she asked, her curiosity getting the better of her.